Winspiration, the way to the essential. On UK Health Radio, Winspiration brings wisdom and information for an extraordinary future. Together, we can shape the world we want to live in. So let's get real and create the idea. Be extraordinary. Welcome to another episode of Wisdom and Information for an Extraordinary Future. Today we have a guest who can help you really change your life and, what I simply say, get your energy back, your health. It's incredible what is possible, what we are not taught really in normal life. So I'm very happy to have a specialist in what we call also kind of, well, it's my wording, kind of energetic healing. He might say it totally different. But Greg Webb is a registered massage therapist. It sounds very normal, but specialized in this area of touch for else. And he is doing it since 92 in his own clinic. And we can see, with those who see it on YouTube, behind him, all the graphics and the touch for health stuff. And he is the vice president of the Canadian Association of Bioenergetic Wellness. So here is kind of energy in and wellness or health. And he is working mainly the last years as a practitioner himself and not teaching anymore, but he was also instructing people, all the technical, all he learned. And if someone is interested, you can later go to this website and maybe buy a wonderful course for really fast understanding. It's 4 DVDs. So this is extraordinary because I experienced him also when he was working from Canada and I'm just living in Switzerland. And how this works and how this can help, that's what we learned today. Welcome, Greg. Thank you for going up early. On a Sunday, recording it, and it's really a pleasure, and I feel blessed that I learned a lot from you already about energy, how the body works. So I just introduced you with my words. If you might please say a little bit more, what is the right terms, what you're doing, how you're doing, and why is what you're doing for people important to have an extraordinary future?
Thank you, Wolfgang. It's thanks for the opportunity to be here. It's quite a delight and quite a pleasure. And an honor as well. How did I get here? I grew up in on a farm in a very small rural part of East Central Alberta. The closest town was a population of 110 people. In the 1960s, my mother had a way of finding people who knew how to work on the human body with their hands that didn't wear a white coat. Mm-hmm. So that sort of became part of my picture of how you took care of your health, is you find people that know how to work on the human body.
What is it called? Also, like healing with hands at that time, or?
It wasn't really called anything that I was aware of. I was just a boy going along with my mom and dad to these appointments where my mom was getting work, sometimes done on her digestive system, sometimes for a back injury that she sustained while skating with my older brothers and falling on the ice. But I found it interesting. And then my first experience with a chiropractor came at age 5 as a result of jumping out of a grain truck. Seemed like a good thing to do.
Yeah.
So chiropractic became part of my
the law of gravity cool yet.
So I was introduced to non-Western methods at a pretty early age. Mm-hmm. And then college education-wise, I went and pursued geology because my dad was a rock hound. He was a farmer, but he was also a big fan of finding pretty rocks out in the field and learning all about them. At that point in time, the energy industry, the oil industry in Calgary, Canada, or in Alberta, was a thriving business. So I spent my first number of years working in the oil industry, enjoying geology work. And in a lot of ways, geology work is quite similar to my clinic work now, because geology work is data exploration data extrapolation, and then ascertaining what is the story telling you and what can you find there. And
That will be interesting.
one of the
Your work is connected to data.
very much so, yeah. And maybe it's part of my science geek inquisitive mind or Virgo traits or goodness knows what, but I quite enjoy the explorative data analysis aspect
Yeah.
of things. And this is where kind of today's topic has been such a gift for me and millions of people around the world. It's the science of muscle monitoring. Muscle monitoring, also known as muscle testing, sometimes in many parts of the world referred to as kinesiology, named after applied kinesiology. There's hundreds of thousands of practitioners around the world that and normal everyday folks that have taken training in one form or another of muscle testing, but all of it came out of two gentlemen by the name of Dr. George Goodhart from Detroit, Michigan. He was a young chiropractor working working in his dad's chiropractic office in the 1960s, looking for ways of stabilizing skeletal imbalances, recognizing that muscular imbalances were behind skeletal imbalances. He found empirically, just by being a curious clinician, ways of balancing muscles so that they no longer imbalance the spine, and then his chiropractic treatments would last longer. One of the fellows that he trained was also a chiropractor by the name of Dr. John Thie from California. Big strapping 6'6", handsome lads, kind of like you. And bit of a frontier kind of guy.
My mind a little bit. Muscle monitoring, muscle testing, muscle healing. First of all, what is monitoring and what is testing? Like monitoring, I have a monitor and watch it all the time.
Right.
What is it?
There are a bit synonymous and interchangeable terms. And what we're speaking about is a muscle response that will give you feedback from the body using manual pressure. So in other words, positioning a limb to isolate a muscle,
yeah,
and then applying gentle pressure on that limb to see what its integrity is, if it can hold or if it can let go. But one of the most empowering discoveries of that science is that muscle monitoring can be used as a body conversation tool, and that every muscle in the body, as you can see behind me on the charts, corresponds to an acupuncture meridian, an organ, a gland, and then also a chakra. And then all the aspects of life that fall underneath the category of traditional Chinese medicine and the 5 elements, and as well the East Indian philosophies of chakras, auras, and what those correspond to as they translate into how we interact with life. And that is what muscle monitoring and muscle testing, they're a synonymous term. They don't mean anything different, but they enable a conversation with the body, which is incredibly empowering. And it's such an easy to learn skill. I taught touch rail classes.
I understand what do you mean really by conversation? I can easily understand that is a technique or a possibility to understand the body, but communication is kind of back and forth.
Very much so.
Yeah. You can communicate with the body in this way.
Absolutely. And that is the beautiful gem of it. And it operates on a one question at a time basis. Okay, so it's a one question at a time, and you can explore any topics that you wish. And what you're looking for from the muscle monitoring feedback is a difference between the limb holding steady or letting go.
Yeah.
And it can be an arm muscle, a leg muscle, a finger muscle. Any muscle can be that biofeedback tool. What I want to lead towards in today's class is giving people the gift of some very fundamental primary tools of self-testing for self-empowerment.
Yeah. Super.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Can add another one where it says if you have these, it's a kind of yes or no answer. Is this right?
Yes, precisely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes and no answer. Yeah.
Okay. So it's important to learn to ask the right question, like always in life.
Right. And very typically speaking, when asking the body questions using muscle testing, a yes response usually shows up as a strong or a hold, steady, that kind of thing. And a no response shows a let go. And I prefer I prefer to stay away from the language of strong and weak because nobody wants to be weak. Everybody wants to be strong. And if you come at muscle monitoring or muscle testing, even when doing it with yourself from a position of, oh, strong or weak response, well, it's better to come at it from a position of a hold steady or let go.
Yes,
The answers are
because simply
valid.
the yes and no, that is not the yes is always strong and the no is always weak. No, it's just
Right.
kind of which direction. Yeah. And
Yeah. Yeah. So it's and then topics that can be explored. Okay, so I'm a registered massage therapist by trade, and when I was taking my massage therapy training, prior to that, my chiropractor was using touch rel muscle testing to ascertain what parts of my spine would benefit from chiropractic adjustment, and then he would use a muscle test, basically a straight arm out, and then contact parts of my spine, see where the arm would let go, conferring that that was a part where there was vertebral misalignment. He would then palpate, yes, there is vertebral misalignment. He would do his chiropractic manipulation,
yeah.
and then recheck the muscle and as well the muscles that correspond to that spinal segment, and they would be strong. The same principle translates for me as a massage therapist. As a massage therapist, you're trained to feel for texture changes, for rigidities, for fibrousness, for tension areas, right? And it is absolutely true, Wolfgang. The issues of life are in the tissues. And in standard training for massage therapy and physical manipulation, you're taught to work on the physical body, but the physical body is where the issues end up at.
Yes.
What Touch for Health training at all, and there's hundreds and hundreds of modalities have launched from the basic premise of Touch for Health because it's such a flexible tool. What those skills enable is the exploring with that person, where that person's body will tell you, is it mental? Is it emotional? Is it physical related to an organ? Do we need to work the lymphatic system for better lymphatic drainage? Is it beneficial to work the blood flow for better blood flow circulation? Is it an acupuncture meridian? But the nutshell is, I can do it like a 90-second muscle melter, where if I feel a rigidity, then all I got to do is just simply position and test the limb related to that muscle, rub some circulation reflexes, retest the muscle, and what has been accomplished is a complete reset of tension in the primary muscle where there was rigidities, but as well in all of its neighbors that work with it and help position it. So it's a way of melting out tension incredibly effectively in a massage session. But all these reflexes, which are circulation reflexes, and in the touch rail material, which is up on top of my shoulder here, those circulation reflexes are very easy to self-apply. And what they do is they increase the circulation of the lymphatic system for better drainage and better detoxification, essentially opening the pipe. And as well for the vascular system, improving the blood flow into site-specific regions. Again, they're very easy reflexes to work. The lymphatic reflexes, you just simply rub them gently.
Yeah.
They're on the chest and the leg. And if you feel a tender spot, that tender spot, all it's telling you is that I'm so happy you found me. And if you rub me, something I correspond to will feel better. So it's a really nice self-application tool, right? So that's things that you would find in touch for health material. And then the blood flow ones are on the head. So essentially what you're doing is you're opening the pipes for circulation out and then in. So anytime you can increase circulation.
The dough or is not related to, or just feels as a soft way of acupressure?
It's kind of related, but it's anatomically different in how it works. Yeah. And the reflexes that are used in touch for health were actually first mapped out, the lymphatic ones by an osteopath, by Dr. Frank Chapman in the 1930s. He had good palpatory hands for feeling for congestion in organs. And he was looking for a way of relieving congestion in organs. At around the same point in time, a chiropractor in California, Dr. Terrence Bennett, was using a fairly freshly developed piece of scientific equipment called the fluoroscope, which showed blood flow capillary basis levels. And through using a fluoroscope, he was able to map out in the head where the reflexes were that, again, make the pipes bigger. So it's a way of improving circulation, improving detoxification, and improving fresh nutrients in.
Yeah.
And then the combination with the acupuncture meridian tracing, what it does is it enhances the vitality. So you have detoxification, fresh nutrients in, improving the vitality. And one of the things that I find metaphorically important about the lymphatic system is the fluids of our body hold memory. It's a fairly recent discovery, but the fluids of our body hold memory. And every part of our soft tissue is completely inflated and held in place with scaffolding of water molecules, very much like the air inside of a bicycle tube tire. It's the air inside of the bicycle tube that inflates the tire. And in our body, it's the water inside of our very tiny protein structures that inflates them, that holds our body in place. But that water holds our memory. So if we have stress going on in our life, the issues are in the tissues, and working the lymphatic reflexes helps to create the opportunity for that tension that we were holding or feeling about any one of those, a million life instances. It provides the opportunity for that tension to actually physically leave our body by the fluids and then be replaced by fresh fluid in the blood.
Yeah,
and that's for water.
Interesting point. It might be that the listener knows about the Emoto stuff with the water crystals, and some will use a word and put water on it, and everybody believes just the water can read somehow or get energy input. But it's so much more. The water has a memory.
Yes.
Yeah, and that I think is a very important thing. And how to change a memory also, not just add something.
Right.
Is that true?
That is very true. And I'll show you right now, Wolfgang, as well as everybody else who's listening, and describe it for those who are not viewing but listening. There's a very natural response that we have when we find out that we just heard some stressful news. A very natural response is we cup our forehead with the palm of our hand. And the reason we cup our forehead with the palm of our hand to relieve our stress is very anatomically sound, because what this hand position does is it brings more blood flow to the frontal lobes of your brain, where you can feel calm during stress, where you can think clearly. It re-engages the pathways between the left and right hemisphere of the brain, between the front and back hemispheres of the brain. So simply by putting your hand on your forehead while thinking about any stressful topic helps to lessen the chemical charge, helps to lessen the electromagnetic charge around a stressful situation, helps to allow the organ systems inside of your body that respond to stress, your heart, your lungs, your liver, your stomach, your gallbladder, so all the organs that respond so much to emotional stress, just simply by putting the palm of your hand on your forehead, it gradually allows them to calm internally, and you become much more enabled in a situation. You become less distracted by whatever the situation is, and you are indeed, like you referred to, providing the opportunity to change the memory in the water that's surrounding your body's cellular structures, just simply by putting your hand on your forehead. It's one of the very first techniques that you'll learn if you ever take a Dutch health class, and it's something that 30 some odd years later, I use absolutely every single day in my clinic practice, because it is such an incredibly potent tool at relieving stress. It's super simple, and all you got to do is just be on topic with whatever's stressing you and breathe. And especially in through the nose, out through the mouth, helps to shift the nervous system towards the parasympathetic relaxed state faster than just simply in and out through the nose breathing. In through the nose, and just allow the air to escape through your lips.
Yeah.
Shifts the body into calm.
Very, very interesting. I just realized I have a paradigm and I need to change, because just I connected it, and I'm an idiot. Yeah? So
oh no, it's really.
And so maybe I'm the idiot not doing it enough and really change the memory. Very interesting.
Okay, on that topic, hand to the forehead. If any of your listening audience has children that are in school, or they find themselves in a scholastic situation themselves, the way to keep your brain engaged during learning and keep the frontal lobes is just rest your elbow on the table and just simply let your head rest.
Oh, yes, we see it where people are thinking.
Yeah. And then what that does is it keeps your brain calm and engaged, and will help prevent exam freeze up. It makes the integration of left and right brain and learning easier, because again, one half of the brain has to hold the whole picture. What are we building? That's the right side. You have the right to be creative, so it's the right side of the brain that builds the whole picture. And the left side of the brain does the analytical steps. But the two of them need to blend together in order for understanding to happen. And just the simple act of just placing the palm of your hand on your forehead helps the neural pathways that lead to understanding and memory and retention and being calm around it. It just helps them happen.
Yeah, wow. Very, very, very good. There's everybody we're talking about extraordinary future. So there are so simple, effective tools. Just put your hand on the forehead, you calm down and can create a better future because you're less stressed, you can think better and create something better. Super.
Wolfgang, just in regards with the extraordinary future, lately I've been working with some newer clients, and they're kind of in their anywhere from 21 to 40-ish range. There's about a half a dozen of them. None of them know each other. And during our 20s and 30s, as we can speak by looking back experience,
Yeah.
is a time in life when you're figuring yourself out.
Yeah.
What do you like? Who do you like? What do you like? What you don't like? How do I respond in these situations? Our 20s and 30s are times when we're establishing our playbook of life, learning to pursue our passions. And there can be lots of distractions that come along. And it's been interesting to see as I've worked with this, pardon me, still a tickly cough kicking around. As I've worked with this collection of people that don't know each other, I'll ask them when they come back in for their next appointment, so how did the last session settle in? And it's delightful to hear how often they comment on, gosh, myself and my dad, as soon as we got in the same room, we used to just set each other off, and now we don't. Her dad wasn't in for the session. She was in for the session.
Yeah.
But because the energetic relationship of one person has changed, it changes how the other person responds, because we emanate from our electrical field or our chakras. We pre-emanate information out that other people around us pick up. And then before they have the chance to consciously think about it, their pre-conscious brain, their limbic brain, that the pack animals, all of our four-footed mammal friends, right, that they run so much off of communication-wise. They don't have verbal skills, but they have incredible intuition and incredible ability to read energy. We still have that. We just overcrowd it with words, right? But there's one lady found that her relationship with her dad got so much easier. Another girl was commenting, hey, is he a young, handsome man in his early 20s and finding girls just too good and too distracting to know which one to pick?
Yeah.
One of God's best days, inventing girls, right? And so after our first session, he's as a young man, he's college trained, and he's working in a blue collar industry as an inspector of the work of men done in their 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Yeah.
So here he is, the young man in his 20s, in a position of approving of men who've been at their trade doing this stuff for 20, 30 years, whatever the case may be. And he found that not only in his work relationship was he calmer, he had an easier time being authentic.
Yes.
Versus feeling like he needed to be uppity or bossy or whatever. He was connecting more easily. And likewise, he found with the young ladies that he was pursuing, it was far more easy for him to sort which of these girls are really a good match for me and which are not. It became clearer.
Can I be authentic? Yes. And yeah.
And that's one of the things that happens. It's a delightful outcome of exploring stress factors in the body using muscle testing and calming those stress factors using hands on the forehead and other de-stressing positions, and how much clarity it allows for a person to have an inner calm, to be just more authentic with yourself, more authentic with everybody around you. And how we show up is always, it's an interesting predeterminer of how things show up, how things turn out, is how we show up, right? So it's quite delightful.
Yeah, it's wonderful because all our work is, and I think it's also the time we're living a special time where we have a chance, because we have enough food on planet Earth, we have everything enough on planet Earth. We have a problem with the distribution, but it is enough there.
Right.
That we really, really, really have the chance to start to live authentic, true self. Yeah. But we are not trained in it. We say, school system, society, parents didn't know about it and everything. So kind of, let's say simply off track. And the body knows it because it's better connected to the soul than our brain. Huh?
Well, speaking of brain and life path and guts, following your gut, and following your heart is, I mean, how many times have you heard the expression, well, just follow your gut, or just follow your heart? You know, it sounds like a great idea, but how do I do it? Right? It's like, where's the instruction manual? Is there a chapter where I can look that up?
Yeah.
And that's where muscle monitoring, muscle testing, bioenergetic feedback, they're all synonymous terms. None of them mean anything different.
It's very,
and that's where that comes in.
When people say, oh, I follow my gut, I'm careful. It can be very risky. Everything what is a little bit strange for you, you feel maybe different, even if it's the best for you. Huh? So with the muscle testing, you can really test what is good for the body. Yeah.
And do you make better decisions if you're anxious or better decisions if you're calm?
Yeah.
You make better decisions if you're calm.
Yes.
Right. So can I show you in the audience another hand position that goes quite easily with for her? I'll just stand up a little bit so you can see. But for those of you that are listening, this next hand position where you're going to place the palm, and it doesn't matter which hand, placing the palm of your hand on the upper belly. Okay, so there.
Okay, there. It's the right hand.
Doesn't matter which hand.
Doesn't matter which one. Okay. So it's not important that you put it on the heart or just on the chest.
So what I've done is I have lined up the base joint of my thumb with the bottom of my breastbone. So all you got to do is feel for your breastbone, and the very bottom of it, there's a little pointy bit called the zippy sternum. Just hit the base of your thumb joint, and again, it doesn't matter which hand. And now with your palm there, these are acupuncture points that I'll just come back down into camera again here. These are acupuncture points that go straight into the amygdala operating system of the limbic brain. The limbic brain is our emotional survival brain. Go find food, go find a mate, protect my family, protect myself. Where's my place of shelter? All that type of thing, right? That's limbic brain. And the limbic brain, what it responds to, especially from the amygdala, and the amygdala is an almond-sized device. It's about this, and you have one behind each eye. And it pays attention to absolutely everything that you input. It's a bit of I like to call it a 50-50 combination between Chicken Little and God. Chicken Little, very easily excited. God, large chain of command. So the acupuncture points that you're covering by placing the palm of your hand just on the bottom of the breastbone have to do with rage, anger, and frustration, escape, submission, freeze up, pain, punishment, panic, sadness, grief, depression, separation, loss, and loneliness, abandonment, and betrayal, fear, threat, and danger, and pleasure, reward, and block pleasure rewards. In other words, I do deserve pleasure, I do deserve reward, or I don't deserve pleasure, I don't deserve reward. So by simply placing your hand there on the upper belly and the other hand on the forehead and thinking about whatever the topic is you wish to explore, to follow your heart or follow your gut on, you can now calm yourself, and you always make better decisions when you're calm. And this is a technique that is so potent. Again, I use this technique to melt away stress from hundreds and hundreds of conditions, whether they be a life experience or a gland imbalance with an emotional component, an organ imbalance with an emotional component, a muscle imbalance with an emotional component. an energy field imbalance with an emotional component. The hand position that I'm showing, hand on the upper belly and on the palm of the hand on the forehead, is such a powerful and potent and simple to use technique. It's wonderful to share with friends.
Yeah.
If you wish to do this for somebody else, another thing that you can do is have the person sit in a chair, and for holding their head, stand beside them and hold their forehead in one hand and the back of their head gently in the other hand.
Mm-hmm.
And what you want to do is just enough pressure so that if you were a little bit lighter, your hands would slip off the skin. You don't want to squeeze too hard. Just enough pressure so you're making contact and a slight lift. So hands front and back on the head. And now what you're doing is you're also calming stress out of the back brain, which is our fight, flight, fear, reptilian, and survival centers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can do front and back of the head, but as well doing front and back on the tummy, where your hand is on the front. Just put your other hand on the back. It almost rests over the kidneys, and a palm of the hand over the kidneys is a very comforting, calming thing to do. So if you've got a friend who's feeling distraught about anything, these two hand positions, front and back of the head and front and back of the torso, are incredibly potent at calming. And then you can use the muscle monitoring things of self-noticing to then go questioning, is this a good decision for me? Is this, you can do your yes, no formatting questions. And I think on a future interview, Wolfgang, I'll get some basic life topics to explore. Mm-hmm. We've got about 15 minutes left here or so. So let's chat a little bit. And then I'd like to as well show the audience and help the audience learn just some very simple self-testing, self-monitoring tools.
I'm just writing down for me, is this a good question? I think this is so important. Like we always say, the quality of your life depends on the questions. And a school system trains you to have good answers, but we're not trained in having good questions.
Right.
So we can really use this to really level up the quality of our life if we get used to really check, is this a good question for me? And then the muscle testing.
Correct.
With it is incredible value, if you get used to do this. Can you maybe say a little bit more, how we can optimize the question thing? How to really have a question? Because I think a lot of techniques, like you're also with the muscle testing, it depends on the question. What I test. So how can I optimize to have the right question? Okay. I said you need to think about it now. I mean, from all your wisdom, which you big.
So one of the things in exploring questions, can I tell you first how I approach it from a clinic set? And then perhaps you can discuss how you come at it from your coaching and training with that.
It's the best we understand that, because for me, asking right questions and then getting the right feedback from the body, it's, what is it? 80%, 90%, 98% of the quality of the life?
Asking the right question.
Mm-hmm.
So in my clinic practice, again, I'll just share from my clinic perspective, because that's where I use it a lot. And then as well, I'll share a little bit of how I use muscle monitoring and self-noticing on a daily basis, just in my regular life.
Yeah.
Clinic basis, what I'm looking for when somebody is working with me, chances are they've got some area of the life that they want to improve, a body region that's not working right, a digestive system that's off, hormones that are off, stress of some kind. So my categories that I explore on are mental, emotional, physical, electrical, nutritional. Mm-hmm. So mental equal thinking, thought patterns, and our brain circuitry. I've got hundreds of clinical pages of manuals, of very complex protocols that are far too complicated to remember, mm-hmm. but a lot of them are columned out by hand, front, and back on the forehead. If the category of mental stress shows up, an easy remedy on that is hands, front, and back on the forehead. Mm-hmm. If the category of emotional shows up, in my clinic practice, I've got hundreds, if not perhaps maybe thousands of pages of emotional cross-reference material that we, in the world of muscle monitoring and or kinesiology, whatever you want to call it, they're referred to as scan lists. And I've got a book here handy. It's by some ladies down in Australia, 5,500 affirmations. They've got 6 books in a series, and it's a variety of pages on a variety of topics. And scan lists are a spectacular way of allowing your body a way to guide you through using muscle testing to find the words you couldn't think of. And I find that so many times in my clinic practice, if emotional shows up and I go to the book directed by the client's body and the page and the aspect, and I have the client read it, and I ask the question, can you relate to this? They'll go, oh my God, that's been running my life for the past month. But I just couldn't put words to it.
Yeah.
So often having scan lists, resources, and in the follow-up resources to today's talk will be the link to the Rekindled Ancient Wisdom books. And again, this is just one of many resources, but it's Rekindled Ancient Wisdom by some lovely ladies out of Australia.